Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafts by the Bow. Today I was playing around with this little Mountain Air photopolymer stamp set and I was just seeing how I liked the composition, which bits I thought went nicely together, and I came up with this little picture. And once I'd made it, I knew I had a card in my head that I could make with this. So that's the card I'm going to make today. I will use a couple of the matching dies. I'm actually going to use the big tree, and I'm going to use some other dies as well, but as I get onto that part, then I'll show you what else I'm using. So the first thing I'm starting with is a little piece of Very Vanilla, because I want to make this picture, or something very, very similar anyway. And I've also got another little piece of Very Vanilla that's going to fit over the top, almost like a picture frame. And for this, I used my stitched rectangles. And I just took two that were not next to each other, but sort of every other one, just to give it a little bit of a wider frame. Now, lots of different ones of these will fit on your card. You don't have to use the same ones I used. But I just chose two that I liked the look of. So I've already been and cut that out. And this is going to be my background, and this is going to be my little photo frame piece. So you can see when it's on here, it's going to make kind of a mountain picture. I just need to pull the scenery down a little bit so that you can see some of all of it, and I have a little bit of sky in there as well. Now for the sizings and everything, they're always on my blog at craftsbythebow.blogspot.com, so hop on over to there if you'd like to see sizings. And I'm going to start with a piece of crumb cake, and I've cut it across on the shorter side rather than the long side, so that my card will go this way. Okay, and I'm just going to get a little piece of scrap, and I'm going to use this little tree set here to make the backing for my card. And because this is crumb cake, I could stamp in crumb cake, but often what I like to do so that it goes to the right colour is to use Versamark. Because if you stamp in Versamark, it will always look the same as the cardstock, just a shade darker. So I've got that little tree set on here. I'm just going to stamp it up with Versamark. And then I'm just going to sort of randomly stamp so that I've got a bit of a tree background. There isn't, a pattern to this. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I just want it to have a little bit more of a background. And you won't see all of this. You'll only see little odds and ends of it. So, I don't think I stamped that one very dark. Let me just see. This one doesn't look to be coming up very dark, so I'm just going to stamp over it again. Just move it down a little bit so that I can see. Yeah. I want just a little bit on this edge here. And then I'm just going to put a little bit up here too. And that's all I'm putting on. So we don't need the Versamark again. And I'm not going to need that stamp set again. Now I want to put a little sentiment at the bottom here, and the Mountain Air set doesn't actually have sentiments. And because I'm making a masculine card, what I did was I got a different set out, just the Clubhouse golf set, because I wanted this happy birthday. It looks sort of a masculine font, and it's just the kind of size I wanted. But you could use just anything you have. And equally, you don't have to put a sentiment on it. If you don't want a sentiment, you can keep it just plain. You could always do your sentiment on the inside when you're writing. So, let's see if I can get this straight. I'm just going to stand up a little bit just to try and see that that's level. There we go. And let's move that because I don't need that again for a second or two. Okay, so that's going to be sort of the main part of our card. And it's got just this little tiny bit of decoration on, but we are putting more decoration on as well. I have already stamped a piece of Very Vanilla with that same tree for the inside. So let's attach that. And that way the inside sort of carries over the theme from the outside. Looks like it all matches. And then what I did as well, while I had that stamp inked up with the Mossy Meadow, I did one on the front of the envelope. Excuse me. Okay, so next I took a little piece of the DSP from that same Clubhouse set. And there are lots of designs in there. Lots of them have golfing pictures on. I think this is actually a piece that we got, excuse me. I think it's a piece that we got in the little 6x6 packs, but it is exactly the same paper that's in the 12x12. And I'm going to put it just across my card like this. I didn't want to put it on until I'd stamped my sentiment because I didn't know how high up my sentiment was going to be. Let's just add some glue onto this. And the liquid glue means that I can put this on and then wriggle it about if I'm not quite sure about the placement. I've still got it on my scrap paper here. And I am going to line it up so that I know it's straight. There we go. And now you can start to see that we're only going to see part of these trees anyway. So I do apologise for coughing. I have a little hair, I think, at the back of my throat. And it's just tickling. So, there we go. Right, now let's stamp the picture that's going to go on here. I've got the Very Vanilla already, and it's the piece that the little photo frame is going to fit over. And what I need is my picture that I'd made originally. And let's find those mountains. I have already put them on my stamp block. I've got a sticky bit on my finger now from that glue. There we go. So I've already got this on my stamp block and I'm going to stamp it up or ink it up with soft suede. And because it's quite a long stamp, I'm actually going to take the ink pad to the stamp because it's longer than the stamp pad itself. And this way I can tell that I've got it inked all the way along. There we go. Let's put that back on there. And it will be longer than my little piece of card, so I've still got that scrap piece underneath. And I'm just going to stamp that onto there. Perfect. Okay, now I don't need that ink anymore, and I don't need that stamp set anymore. Well, that particular stamp. So I'm just going to clean it and take it off because I do need this block. And let's get rid of that one. And then I'm going to put this longer one on. And this is the one that has the trees. And on one side it has just the little indentations from the trees, and on the other side it's flat. Now I am going to be using the other side, but first I want to use the tree side. So I'm going to stick that onto my stamp, onto my block, so that I can see the indentations, and they're on the top. And then I'm going to use my Mossy Meadow ink, which is the one I used for the trees on the envelope and for the inside. And again, I'm going to take the ink to the stamp, and that way I know I'm getting ink on all of it. A little piece of fluff there, let's just take that off. I've got ink on my fingers now, but that's okay. Okay, and let's put that back on the paper. And I'm just going to stamp this at the base of the mountains, so some of the trees will look like they're in these little parts of the mountains, and the rest of the greenery will be underneath the mountains. And I don't think there's a right and wrong way to put these on. It's however you want it to be. Yeah. Okay, let's clean that off, because we're going to turn that stamp over. Put the mossy meadow away, we don't need that one again yet. We're going to need the Night of Navy. So I'm going to turn that over, and this time it will be the flat side that we see. So when you stamp with it, all you will get is a flat image. And I'm going to use Night of Navy, but I don't want it to be as dark as the Night of Navy. So I'm going to stamp off once. Let me put the ink to it again. I don't want too many lines on it. Okay, so I'm going to stamp off. That will be quite dark, and I'm going to use the next generation of stamping, or the second generation, and I'm going to stamp on here so that it looks like water, and I'm going to go not quite all the way up to the trees, but I'm going to make sure that some of the trees are next to the water and some are a little bit further away. Now, don't worry that, you've got lighter bits and darker bits. That doesn't matter at all. In fact, it makes the water look a little bit better, a bit more realistic. Okay, so I'll just clean that off. Pop that on one side because we don't need that again. Then the only other little stamp that I'm going to need are these little birds here. And on the card that I was playing about with, I stamped them in one of the greys. I think it was the basic grey, but this time I'm going to stamp them in black. It's a tiny little stamp. Let's just check. Yeah, I want them in black. And I'm going to put them over at the right hand side. Now that might be a little bit high. I won't know until I put my photo frame on it. No, it still works, look. It's still just framed in the picture. Okay, so that's all of the stamping that I need to do. So let's start and attach all the pieces to our card. So here's the base again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this piece down, and then this little photo frame part I'm going to put up on dimensionals. So let's put the frame of the basic piece down first. Let's make sure that's straight and try and get that fairly straight. Okay, then I'm going to put little dimensionals around. I don't have any of the long strips left, I don't think. Let me just have a look. Oh, I've got a couple. If you've got these kind of strips, you can buy them. This one came from a paper pumpkin, but you can buy them, and they're sort of more about this kind of length. So Stampin' Up does have those. I'm going to use these just where I can. If you don't have these, I was going to use some of the smaller mini dimensionals, but this will work better for me for now. Let's get some scissors. And this way you won't be able to see the dimensionals. They'll be nicely hidden. Take this piece off. Just need a little bit more for there, and I haven't got a piece there, so I'm going to use one of the little edges from here. See how much we need. About that much. Let's pop that on there. There. Take the backing off. These rectangular dies make such nice little photo frame pieces. I've used them on quite a few cards, and if you want them a little bit thicker, then you just choose the next size down, or if you need them narrower. It's really quite versatile. Okay, so I'm just going to add this onto here. Make sure that I'm covering up the whole of the bottom. There we go. And then last of all, I used the dies that go with the Mountain Air set, and I used this big tree. Now you do actually get two of these. They're both exactly the same. It just means that you can cut more at a time because you've got both of them. So just a bit time saving. The only thing I did find when I was cutting mine out was I should have had another little piece of card on there as well, just to give it a shim, because the little pieces, they weren't easy to come out. So you could use your die brush, or you could just poke them out with scissors or your pick tool. But I cut two out because I was going to put two on the card, but actually I then decided I'm only going to put one on, and I'm going to attach it here. So it's sort of matches in with the little trees here and just gives a little bit more to look at, just sort of on the front of the card. Now, we used to have adhesive sheets, and I think Sizzix made them for us, and that meant that you could run a piece of card through on an adhesive sheet, and it made it almost like a sticker. And I really miss those, because it made it so easy for when you wanted to attach little delicate bits like this. Now, if you didn't want to go down with a liquid glue like this, what you can also do is put a little bit of the glue, like a little puddle of glue, on your silicone mat, and then pop a sponge over it, and it makes the sponge sticky but not too gluey. And you can just run over the back of the die cut with the sponge, and it makes it sticky for you. But that's all I'm going to put on for now. And I'm sticking it so that it attaches down the left hand side of the photo frame, and that way I know it's glued onto there and there's no glue underneath the little bits that are sticking off. There. If you did want to add more, you could cut this little piece off and have it so that it was a different size tree on there. I think that would look quite nice as well. And you could also add, let's get some out, you could also add linen thread. I think it would look really nice with linen thread just around this left hand side. You could add a little bit of bling if you wanted. If you wanted to put some of the metallic pearls on, you could colour them in the mossy meadow or in the soft suede and put that on too. But I'm going to leave mine just as it is for now, because I don't really know who I'm going to give it to, and whether it's somebody who would like a little bit of bling or not. But there we are. That's my card for today. I hope you'll give that a try, and I hope you'll give this photo frame or window effect a try as well. It's really easy to do, and I think it just gives that nice little added dimension that if that's a card that's on your mantelpiece or on a table with other birthday cards, that would just stand out because it has that depth and dimension to it. So thanks so much for watching me. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye bye everybody.